Welcome to Rider Nation Station, presented by American Manufacturing Solutions, your total logistics partner, investing in Rider Nation Station and St. Mary's, Ohio, and to our other fine sponsors.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Rider Nation Station's presentation of the Doug Frye Show. I'm Joe Hurlbert, alongside head coach Doug Frye. Well, Coach, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
We're rolling.
Well, we got one under our belt.
We do.
Which is, good because we never knew where we were going to be at with the whole COVID situation. So glad to get a game in.
Absolutely. Well, the Rough Riders come away with a big win over Bath on the road last week. But let's take a look at some of the games around the Western Buckeye League, and we'll see if there's any surprises. The Kenton Wildcats defeated Shawnee by a score of 25-14. The Van Wert Cougars defeated Elida 55-20. OG defeated Defiance 48-13. Of course, this is what I think is an upset. Salina defeats Wapakoneta last week 14-10. And, of course, St. Mary's wins 27-7 over the Bath Wildcats. Big surprise as far as, and we'll talk about that a little bit because Riders play Wapak this week, but kind of a surprise. Salina upsetting Wapak, or maybe not.
Well, probably in most people's eyes. In a normal season, you usually see a lot of strange things late in the year in game 9 and 10 as teams deal with injuries and, maybe the focus of their team. And this year with just a half scrimmage, you just really, the first couple weeks, we're far from being in game shape. Sure. So you just don't know what's going to happen on situations. You don't know which kids are out with different things, injuries or possible COVID. You just don't know what's going to happen. So there's just so many variables that you're going to see a little more of this, I think.
Well, let's take a look at this week in the Western Buckeye League as we enter into the second week of league play. The Shawnee Indians are on the road. They'll take on Salina. Bath is on the road at Kenton. Elida's on the road, and they'll take on the Titans at OG. Defiance is at Van Wert. And, of course, we'll talk a little bit later of Wapak coming to St. Mary's to take on the Rough Riders. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have more on the Doug Frye Show when we return right after this. St. Mary's Foundry wants to take this opportunity to give a big shout out to all our local teams, wishing them a safe and extraordinary season. And speaking of great teams, St. Mary's Foundry would like to thank its very own team of hardworking employees for their loyalty and dedication. If you're looking for rewarding challenges and first-string wages and benefits, check us out at stmfoundry.com or on hometownopportunities.com. St. Mary's Foundry, where iron and ingenuity meet. Coach, let's take a look a little bit about some of the things that we don't normally get to talk about as far as football is concerned. One of the things that I have a question with, of course, let's say, for example, the Dayton City schools have suspended their football for the fall. How does that affect a future collegiate prospect if they do not get to play their senior season?
Well, I think the shoe-in kids are fine. I think it's those borderline kids that needed film to send in that's going to make it more difficult. Now, those openings are still going to exist for them, so I don't know what's going to change as far as maybe college days. Maybe the High School Athletic Association will change that, and NCAA will change that and allow kids a little more time to actually audition, I guess, would be what it is. So it does hurt those borderline kids.
And as far as recruiting is concerned, you think as far as the collegiate level, do you think those recruiters already have a pretty good idea from seeing these kids in their junior year play as to their potential to play at the next level?
Well, I think that's helpful. And if you had a good junior year, that's really good. But there are a lot of kids that come on in that senior year, and so I feel bad for those kids. Of course, you have an opportunity to walk on or do different things, and so yes, it does hurt some of those kids.
And of course, we talked a little bit last year in one of our shows of the advantage of, and it is very helpful, of the three-sport athlete. You're very much in favor of that, and college recruiters also look at a three-sport athlete.
Absolutely. And so if the young man didn't get a football season but had a great track or baseball season or had a great winter season, and we don't know what's happening in the future. We don't know what's happening with the winter season next. So, that does affect those kids. And hopefully, they did have some other film from other sports to put on there.
Sure. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at last week's win over the Bath Wildcats when we come back to the Doug Frye Show right after this.
For all your sporting good needs, visit Albert Sporting Goods at 121 West Spring Street, serving the St. Mary's community since 1980.
AUGLAIZE Equipment Rental is your source for all your equipment needs. Whether you're a contractor or a homeowner with a project, we can help get the job done more efficiently. Check us out at 1900 Salina Road or auglaizeequipmentrental.com or just call 419-394-7883. AUGLAIZE Equipment Rental.
We want to remind everybody that the Wapakoneta Redskins and the St. Mary's Rough Rider contest will be aired live this Friday night starting at 7 o'clock. We'll be on the air just a little bit prior to 7 o'clock with our pregame show. This week, we've given Zach Farrell the week off, and we're going to have Doug Spencer alongside to bring you all the color commentary and his infinite wisdom, if you will, for this Friday night's game against the Wapakoneta Redskins. Coach, let's take a look. Big win on the road to start the season, 27-7 win over the Bath Wildcats. Took a little bit to get untracked for the offense.
Well, first of all, let's look back, and I'm glad Doug's filling in for Zach, but I would have never – Zach played center for me, by the way, on the 04 team that played in the state championship, and I never gave him a day off. So I'm going to question why that's happening right now, and I'm going to be checking into that.
I agree.
As lawyers dig into things, and Zach being a lawyer, we'll take a look at that. But we really had a sloppy first half, and I think, first of all, Bath is a very quality football team, and I've said this numerous times. Our league is on an upswing talent-wise right now, with a lot of very equal football teams. And through the years, if you look at the history of St. Mary's football, and history usually repeats itself and usually stays close, we've struggled with Bath at times, and even in the 90s when we had our good runs, we struggled, and they were big and they were physical, and it was a tough matchup for us. But I just thought we played in spurts pretty well in the first half, and as we got into the second half, even more so, and late in the third quarter, we started to come together a little bit.
Well, all in all, the Rough Riders had 49 rushing plays for 220 yards on the ground. They were 2 of 10 through the air for 54 yards. So all in all, the Rough Riders finished 59 offensive plays for 274 yards of total offense. Ethan Wedding had 13 carries for 72 yards. Hunter Fraley, 8 carries for 33 yards. And Ross Henshin saw some action late in the ball game, 7 carries, 76 yards, and he led all Rough Rider rushers with that 76 yards. I think one of the things, of course, turnovers was a bugaboo. We had an opportunity to score in the first half. We turned the ball over on a fumble. But you have to be pleased with the Rough Riders getting the ball 5 times in the red zone and scoring 4 of those times.
And the one we didn't, we put on the ground, and I'm not real fond, as most coaches are, of putting the ball on the ground, obviously, so we need to clean that up. But, I thought we did do a decent job of punching it in right there. And it's still hard to evaluate, and I think this is where all coaches are struggling, because we've had such a small evaluation time as head coaches to see us against other people and other opponents. But what I really liked from the ball game was our kids' perseverance. We've never been on a bus. Generally, we try to get to a couple 7-on-7s, a scrimmage or 2 on the road. So under normal circumstances, that would have been our 4th or 5th time boarding a bus and traveling somewhere. So there were a lot of little variables thrown in, and for both teams, and I thought our kids adjusted. By the way, we're sitting in the home locker room here, right here. If somebody's wondering where we're at, there's 10 coaches and 70 football players that are in here. So if you were sitting right here, the aroma is just very good in here as we get to the middle of the week. So this is the home locker room. It is, as I look back to my first trip at St. Mary's, if any of you are watching this program that played here, it's about 3 times as big as the old locker room was.
Absolutely.
So the aroma is actually a little better in here than it was at the old school. So
it is. Let's take a look at some of our highlights from last Friday night's ball game, Coach. This first one is Hunter Fraley, picking up nice yardage on I believe, on a trap play.
Well, Hunter's a 3-year player for us, getting time. He actually started as a sophomore against Sydney in the opening game, and like a lot of kids, he's lost a little bit of weight and body changes a little bit, but he plays the game with a level of emotion, and we love having Hunter. He hits a trap play right here.
Our next play is Ethan Wedding. Of course, Ethan had a nice ball game. This is a nice run by Ethan.
Yes, and Ethan, again, he played a lot for us last year, part-time in and out of the lineup. This is a counter play, well blocked up front, and I've really liked the maturation of our offensive line.
Our next play here is a score. Obviously, you like to keep the hands into the not down here. You don't like to hand it off too much. This is Gavin Reinecke on a quarterback sneak.
Right, and Gavin's a newbie at the quarterback position. He's still getting used to the position. He does a nice job right there getting in the end zone.
And this next play is Tanner Howe, and he wins the race to the corner and puts 6 on the board for the Rough Riders.
Well, the Howe name jumps at you right away. Obviously, there's been a Howe playing somewhere on that football field for me since I've returned, and they play the game in a way that a lot of coaches really like. They're very hard-nosed kids that play awful hard.
And of course, Tanner also goes special teams and also does things on defense. This is a nice run by Dylan Troglin for a touchdown.
Dylan Troglin is the speed essence of our backfield. He has an athleticism that some of the other guys don't, and he does a nice job there.
And we talked about Ross Henshin coming in late in the ball game, gives another added dimension to the offense, and here's a nice run by Ross.
Ross, we really think we have different types of fullbacks, and they add a different dimension, and he just runs extremely hard here. Nice spin move to break out of the tackle.
And of course, the next play he caps it off with a touchdown run.
Yes, and we started to get our sweep going, and they really the fakes were good, and the influence of the guard, and they run outside.
The one play that I didn't capture on the highlight reel is that we'll talk about is the screen pass to Aiden Hinkle. Mm-hmm. That was a nice play set up and a nice catch. He bobbled it, but he ended up picking up some big yards.
Aiden was awful rusty. He's been out of practice. This was the first contest that he's played in this year, so he was a little rusty, but that was a nice athletic move when he got to catch there, and I think in a week or two, as he got caught there going in the end zone, a week or two and he's in better shape, he'll take that on in the end zone.
Let's take a look at the defensive side of the football. Of course, this was a surprise. Unfortunately, we were sitting outside at Bath amongst the fans, and they started Braden Fleehardy as opposed to their normal quarterback, which was a senior. Pretty good kid for a freshman.
Well, they had their number one quarterback has had some injury issues, and so they made some switches around, and I thought they did some wise things. He's a good-looking young man. I think he's going to have a bright career here in the Western Buckeye League, and he did a nice job in the ball game, and they did a little bit different game plan against us. They had been more of a running team in the preseason. They spread it out a little bit, and I thought they really did a nice job.
The Rough Riders gave up 190 yards of total offense against Bath, 162 yards through the air, but the rushing defense limited Bath to just 28 yards on the ground. You had to be pleased with that.
Right, that's our objective each week, and they hit a post on us for a touchdown, but I thought our kids played great team defense.
The defense also had 3 takeaways as well. They had 2 fumble recoveries and an interception.
That's always nice.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at some of the highlights. Our first clip is nice defensive here by Hunter Foltz, a senior defensive lineman.
Hunter Foltz is a very strong young man, hard worker on inside, and 2-year starter. He didn't come out for football until last year, so fundamentally he's still coming around. That's a nice play right there.
This next one is just total defensive line surge by the Rough Rider defense.
We really like our 2 D tackles, and Trace Mabry and Hunter Foltz, and new starter and Gieske in there, and Stosh Patterson that we've moved over. So just a good physical. That's a lot of weight room work right there.
And this next play by the defense, this play here really didn't fool anybody. Everybody stayed at home, did their assignments, and got to the football.
Yes, just a great surge to the ball. Tanner Howe, you can see him coming from the Mike linebacker, and just well taught. Our defensive staff, Coach Yale and his staff, did a great job getting our kids schooled up on that.
Tanner Howell in the next play did a great job filling the hole, hit a big hit, caused a fumble from the linebacker position, but later on you moved him back to D-back.
He moves around a lot. He reminds me of Nick Yale when I coached Nick, actually. He moves around. That's a nice fill there by him, and it pops the ball out.
And, of course, this next play, Tanner Howell, good pressure by the Rough Rider defense to force Flea Hardy out, and he just kind of threw the ball up in the air and, of course, resulted in a Tanner Howell interception.
Good pressure, first of all, which causes their quarterback to put it up, and Tanner makes the pick at the end, but the pressure really caused that.
And down here we had the Bath Wildcats pinned against the Rough Rider goal line. This was almost a safety, but good line surge by the Rough Rider defense.
Yeah, I thought it really was down here. Of course, I didn't have a good angle on the side of it right there to see that, but yeah, it was a good surge, and Bath's really big up front and physical kids, and yeah, good defense.
And, of course, you can't say enough about special teams. Brandon Bowers averaged 34.5 yards per punt on Friday night, but he put the football inside the 15 once and also inside the 5. And, of course, we'll see some highlights here of the special teams play.
Well, Brandon's a kid that has some experience for us and has done that for a year and is a junior punter for us. And I thought overall he did a nice job getting the ball deep and trading field position.
This next clip here shows a nice punt, gets the ball inside the Rough Rider 15.
Yeah, it's a nice roll on the punt, and we get down and we have pretty decent coverage on it and pin them a little bit down in there. Good catch by their player there, the deep return guy.
And this will be another punt inside the 5. This one ends up.
Correct. Good hustle by Devin Shannon downfield to down that ball. And, again, yeah, special teams are a third of the game.
And, of course, our kickoff return team, this next highlight here shows a nice run of 61 yards on a Bath kickoff by Tanner Howell.
Well, set up by our both of our lines. We get a good push right here. And, of course, Tanner, this is the way he plays the game. He plays with a lot of gusto. He hits it back there, and, that's something that we can take no credit for as coaches. That's just the way he plays the game. Gets caught here, and, again, I think we'll get a little better leg shape. We'll get that in the end zone.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at this week's opponent. The Wapakoneta Redskins invade Grand Lake Health Systems Field. We'll take a look at the Redskins and what they bring to the table right after this. VOGEL'S Bake Shop, making thousands of fresh donuts daily. Open 7 days a week with stores in St. Mary's, Salina, and Walpock. Also now found in Wagner's IGA in New Bremen, Minster, and Fort Laramie. Welcome back to the Doug Frye Show on Rider Nation Station. I am your host, Joe Hurlbert, alongside head coach Doug Frye. And, Coach, of course, the rival this week is the Wapakoneta Redskins. They come to Grand Lake Health System Field. They lost last week to the Salina Bulldogs 14-10. That loss happened with 38 seconds to go in the ball game. So, obviously, they've got some things to clean up, but they're going to have their feathers ruffled when they come to St. Mary's, aren't they?
Well, I think every week you don't pay much attention as a coach to what happened last week, and you prepare for the opponent at hand. Obviously, if we're playing Wapakoneta or Salina, those are natural logistics and location rivals. So it'll be a big game for both teams, and we're looking forward to it.
What do you expect to see from the Wapakoneta Redskins? Of course, you were there. You spent some time there, but what do you expect to see from Wapak offensively?
Good athletes, well coached. Wing T base offense, and they'll go into the spread or the one back and motion a little bit. So very similar offensive game plan as ours.
And, of course, the Rough Rider offense will have to pick some things off. What do you expect to see defensively from Walpock?
Just their 4-3. They're a base 4-3, fundamental, blitzing a little bit more this year than they have in the past. But just a well-coached football team, and it's going to be one of those old-fashioned ball games.
We look forward to bringing it to our fans. And, of course, we'll be on the air with the contest a little bit before 7 o'clock. We'll be bringing it to you live. So join us on Rider Nation Station on Friday. We're going to take one final break. When we come back, we're going to sum things up as we take a look at the Rough Riders and the Wapakoneta Redskins for this Friday night. We'll be back with more right after this. Guarnieris on Spring Street, home of the signature Big Ralph Sub, Pizza, and Calzone. Come try our thirst-quenching Rider-Aid before, during, and after the game. It's Guarnieris. Give them a call, 419-394-2244. Coach, what's it going to take for the Rough Riders to get a W on their side of the ledger this Friday night against the Walpock Redskins?
I think, first of all, we got to take care of our own house. We did a lot of sloppy things a week ago. We're not going to be able to afford to continue to do that, so we're going to have to get that cleaned up a little bit. And, every week that's the case, but even more so this week. And this is a rivalry. Both teams will be fired up to play the game, and we're going to have to weather the early part of the rivalry and just continue to have some consistency.
All righty, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Doug Frye Show. Coach, we wish you luck again on Friday night against the Wapakoneta Redskins. Again, reminder, join us Friday night at 7 p.m. for the game between the St. Mary's Rough Riders and the Wapakoneta Redskins. We'll have it live here on Rider Nation Station. Join Doug Spencer and myself as we bring you all the play-by-play action of the game between the St. Mary's Rough Riders and the Wapakoneta Redskins. For head coach Doug Frye, I'm Joe Hurlbert. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week with more on the Doug Frye Show. Until then, so long, everyone.
Thanks for watching another episode of Rider Nation Station. Help us help you by subscribing on YouTube or following us on Facebook.